Hello there and welcome. Today we're going to go a little bit deeper into the mentality system. It's a new system that has been released with 24 and it's supposed to kind of more deeply go into your team performance over the course of a season, giving your drivers and staff buffs and debuff depending on your performance and the situation within the team. Now, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it this episode, or rather this video, and the goal is going to be to give you a better understanding of the mentality system. But unfortunately, the mentality system is making itself hard to understand, so I might miss a few things. There might be something that is inaccurate. If it is, feel free to, correct me. This will be the first mentality video, but we're probably going to dive a little bit deeper on it into it later on when I understand it better. So let's just start with what, again, the mentality system is supposed to be. It is supposed to be a more long-term representation of how your team is doing mentally. If everything is going smooth, you'll be seeing your drivers and staff with a enthusiastic mentality. And in bad times, you'll be seeing this negative mentality, or even the worst tier, which is demoralized. And the idea is very simple. Any driver that is enthusiastic is going to receive quite a substantial buff to their stats. As you can see, Behrman is 78 overall, but he has 4 stats here above 90, 3 stats above 80, and just 2 stats below 70. Oh, sorry, below 80. And there's just a single stat here that's actually below his average. So as you can imagine, this is a pretty significant buff. And we can kind of see the same for Shaw here, 76 rated, but he, again, only has 1 stat that is his overall. He has a couple of stats above 90, 3 of them here. He has 4 stats above 80, and just 2 stats sub 80. So he's very similar in that sense to our boy Behrman. But that's not the only thing imposter mentality does. It increases the rate you get affinity with the race engineer, which is going to be important for the other boost, which is confidence. It increases their development rate. It gives them a contract negotiation patience. And as we've seen, it gives you a huge performance buff. Now, the negative side of this is, of course, the fact that a negative mentality, you still have paired driver affinity up, but a lower development rate, you'll have less patience for contracts, the performance will go down. And we can kind of see it here in Bonington. He's not really lost too much as he's a 92 rated, but 2 of his stats is below 88 and 90, as well as 93. And we probably see this better on staff like, some of the other staff if we had someone else being very, very angry. In this case, we don't. Now, you can always check what is influencing their mentality. You have the personal situation like salary. You have the team performance, basically just how your team is performing. And we have the team principle, which is basically just how they are judging your performance as team leader. And as you can see here, they do like the fact that we had Adami and Bonington join the staff. They feel the staff is, generally okay. The facilities are okay. But our car is bad and our drivers are bad. Now, in terms of the team principle and what they feel or are unhappy with, it seems to basically scale with overalls. In this case, Prodromo, and I would assume Holdy as well, they both are unhappy with the car performance, and they're also unhappy with the drivers. Now, that isn't really based on results. It's just based on stats. In our case, our drivers' overalls aren't good enough for them. Holdy and Prodromo feels like they should be having better drivers to kind of make components for. In comparison, Skoglund here, he still too believes he should have better staff and, well, car performance and drivers in this case, even though he himself is 79 rated. So it basically just seems to be on overall. The drivers, if the drivers below this, we don't like them. If the difference is in overall is this high, we don't like them. But let's face it, due to 79 overall, and our drivers are 78 and 76. There's something going on here that doesn't quite make sense. Now, with Adami, you can see that he's even more extreme. He has a 3 miles to car performance. He does not like the other staff. He does not like the drivers. The facilities aren't good enough. He even has a negative modifier because Prodromo joined. So there seems to be some sort of individual malices and positives, but they're kind of hard to dig out. And there's not really much you can do about these negatives and positives for, in this case, Adami, other than get your hands on better overall staff and better overall drivers, upgrade your facilities, and that is generally how you're going to get rid of the team principle malices here. There isn't really too much you can do with that. You just have to get your hand on better performing, again, staff and drivers. Not really performing, better overall staff and drivers. These guys don't actually care about results when it comes to the car performance, the other staff, the drivers. You get the idea. Now, in terms of your car performance, that one too is kind of hard to raise. In our case, as you can see, this is our current car performance. We're 11th overall. And if we go and take a look now at Behrman, he's still not happy with the car performance, even though he's 78 rated in what is a car that can fight for points. So this one seems to be pretty unbalanced. On the other hand, Shaw is very happy with the car. He's happy with staff, facilities, and he doesn't actually have a malus for the car. So I would assume that he has at least one up arrow here for the car itself, which means there is some individual differences. There are some individual differences that make some drivers hate the car. There's some individual differences that make other drivers like the car. But generally here, just understand that the main way that you're going to get rid of these malices under team principle is just straight up by, in our case, upgrading the car performance. Now, what this means is that we're going to need to upgrade every car part, as car performance seems to be a pretty equal balance between all of these stats. So you're going to basically have to upgrade every single one of them till they are happy. Now, again, in terms of the driver malice and the also the car performance, the other staff, drivers and other staff, the only way I've seen, or rather been able to fix that malice, is straight up just by getting better overall staff. There's no other way around it. You just need to get better overall staff. Facilities you can actually do something with a little bit easier, because facilities just seem to be based on the level of your facilities. And you can actually solve that in a relatively easy manner by just doing some upgrades. Now with that, you kind of understand how the mentality system works as a start. So let's go over the other two, the personal situation and the team performance. And you can kind of get an idea here from Shaw. Team performance basically just goes depending on the team race results, the constructor result, and the personal situation is their own basically results, the driver championship, race results, race quality. Basically, if they DNF, it'll have a negative effect. If they get in the points, they'll have a positive. If they win, it will have a little bit more of a positive effect. So you can kind of get the idea here. This is their personal situation. As long as they perform well on track, they're going to be happy. If they have a lot of negative incidents, they're going to be unhappy with their current personal situation, even though you necessarily haven't had anything to do with that. So a driver who's more prone to crashing is going to more likely have a lot of negative personal situations going. Now, contract salary is something you can control to some degree. We're just paying him 1.8 million here, so you can kind of understand why he's unhappy. But you get an idea on what they are, happy with, what they're struggling with, and kind of how to solve this one. This is a lot easier to deal with than anything under team principle. Next up, team performance is, again, kind of the same as the personal situation, just looking as a team whole. Basically, if your partner, the second driver, the other driver performs well, you get a little bit of a buff because of team performance. But that isn't necessarily a good thing, because in personal situation here, if one driver is getting severely beat by another or outperformed, they're going to also get a negative malus. Now, we're going to jump at the start of a season. I'm going to show you how you can kind of kickstart your mentality in Create a Team. It should work in most teams though. And generally, as I've said, the main way to increase mentality at the moment is just to basically hire better staff, upgrade your facilities, and try and get as high an overall staff as possible. And I'd kind of recommend going for drivers that are probably around 85 overall. Now, why is that? Because if we can take someone like Shaw and give him an overall of close to, say, 85? Probably a little bit high. He almost has max smoothness. 86, 87, 88. If you can get someone who's 85 rated and keep them enthusiastic, same manner that you do for Shaw here, that driver is going to have basically max stats. You can basically get an 84, 85 rated driver and somewhat get them very close to max stats, and with a confidence boost during races, they will have that. But as I mentioned, we are going to jump quickly into Create a Team, and we're going to take a look at how you can kickstart your own mentality. So here we have the team that I've set up, and it's basically 85 rated across the board, and I want to show you something fairly interesting. So Bottas here is very happy with car performance, but on the other hand, Piastri is less thrilled about the performance, and he is also less thrilled about the staff. So even though Bottas is higher rated, he is less happy with the current situation, and Piastri is not. It seems like the younger a driver is, the kind of more demanding they might be. So do keep that in mind. You might see something similar than that. And also here again, we have similar staff to the drivers, and they are very unhappy with both them, facilities, and the other staff, and this goes for kind of both of them. So with that in mind, we are going to go ahead now and just speed through the first 3 races. You're probably going to be doing some upgrades yourself, underfloor and say chassis, and do sponsor negotiation, then start the other 2. And in this case, we started with a lot of money because I just want to show you what the idea is behind kickstarting your mentality, but you don't need a lot of money. You can do this with just 2 million. I just did this to have a little bit more freedom to experiment. But now that we're going to speed through the first 3 races, and then I'm going to show you what the strategy is. Now, after your first 3 races, you might have gotten a little bit of a boost here due to, well, race results. You can also have debuffs. But at this point, it's probably when you're going to want to take advantage of what I'm going to show you next, which is you can actually boost your facilities, or rather use your facilities to boost mentality. There's 2 buildings in particular. The memorabilia room, if you build this to level 5, you get a 10 plus to the mentality. And the team hub, if you build this one to level 5, you get a plus 5. This one seems to run at 110% efficiency though most of the time. There's going to be basically 5.5 points. Now, building these is kind of a good thing to do because they go under facilities, which means that you are going to be able to upgrade your facilities and at the same time get some memorabilia, or rather mentality buffs. And I would also recommend constructing the helipad and the tour center. Tour center was going to bring in money. Use same for the helipad, really, team marketability. But the main reason why I'm asking you to build these is not because of the gains that these 2 buildings give. It's because they're cheap and because you can start building them quick. And the effect you can already see here on Bottas. Whenever you start a design project or a building project, you get a temporary buff on your drivers. In this case, Bottas has gotten himself a facility upgrade started ×4, because that is what we've done. So in order to get yourself up to a good start in terms of the mentality, you can use new building project in order to kind of stagger a bit of a lower mentality buff as you upgrade the car, get everything a little bit better. But I would really not, there's limits to this. It's going to work very well for the first half of the season. But again, just getting the 2 buildings, the memorabilia room up to level 5, getting the team up and running can be very, very valuable if you can afford it. Keep in mind though, this one gets very expensive after level 2 and 3, so you might need to save a little bit of money for that. But the buildings are more than worth it due to the gain you get from mentality, and you can kind of already see it here with Bottas. He's probably not fully enthusiastic yet, as his accuracy is 100, control 98, 95, basically 94, 94, 90. So already he's become very, very scary and a very, very good driver. And we can probably push his mentality even higher. It says that he is enthusiastic, but I believe this is a number that goes from either 0 to 50 or 0 to 100 that I believe to be more likely. And as you can imagine, getting some buffs here from, in our case, other staff, you're probably not going to get the car performance one. But as you upgrade more and more facilities, as you perform better with your upgrades, you're going to see the mentality go up a little bit more. Now, basically, again, as you can imagine, the mentality buff from the operation buildings here is very temporary. It's just going to last for your first 5-6 races after Australia, which is why we start building here. Because by the time you get to Japan, you're probably going to get your first couple of projects done, your underfloor, your chassis, and then your side pod and suspension a little bit later. So that's kind of why we're doing this. This is the point where the car is going to start getting some upgrades. You're going to start performing better than anticipated. And you're going to see your drivers probably get more buffs in terms of their drivers' standings, their personal race results, and also their team race results. That is at least the idea behind the strategy. But honestly, there isn't really too much you can do to influence mentality at the moment. Starting the side projects gives them a temporary buff. Again, you're very limited on money in your first season of Create a Team. You'll have more money in the regular 10 team mode, but it is going to be a small mentality buff that lasts for a little bit. Building facilities works in the same manner. You are, however, at one point going to run out of facilities, so it's also not very a good source. The main thing that you can do to keep your driver's mentality good is to probably pay them a decent wage in their contracts and just try and get better staff, get better drivers, get better overall people on your team. That seems to just be the main way to boost mentality. And even then, sometimes they are going to hate the facilities, they're going to hate the drivers, and there's nothing much you can do with that other than to try and, again, either level up your drivers or bring in better ones. This is just how the game is, unfortunately, played. The mentality system at the moment is very kind of bare bones. there isn't really too much I can say about it, really. And again, for this one, the debuff facilities, just upgrade the operational buildings because it seems to be an overall of the level of your buildings rather than some buildings being a lot more valuable than others. That's kind of also why I think this system might be a little bit bare bones at the moment. But there isn't really too much to it. If your staff or your drivers are unhappy with anything, like if they're unhappy with facilities, upgrade them. If they're unhappy with car performance, that's a project that's probably going to take you at least 2 or 3 seasons to do. In my case here, Piastra is happy with the car currently because we started with one that was 7th overall on the grid. So, again, they aren't very happy with the car unless it is in the top 10 ratings. And that is a project that is going to take you probably a season and a half to do. That malice is just something you're going to have to live with unless you start with a very good car. And other than that, as I said, the other staff just straight up seems to be mainly based on overall. Probably some sort of relation in there too. But for the most part, it just seems very inconsistent is the best way I can put it. So if there's someone that hates each other, like we saw with Adami earlier, you might just have to try and get better overall drivers, better overall staff if your drivers hate your staff. Again, not really too much to it. And if there's any questions to the mentality system or anything that I have forgotten with this, feel free to ask. But I am going to dive deeper into this again later on when we know a little bit more. There is some talk about a balance coming with the first patch potentially. So we'll probably see then. I would definitely love it if Frontier would go ahead and add a little bit more explanations. And I would just like to take a little bit of time here, a couple of minutes, to explain what I mean. Basically, if a driver has an issue, I would love it to say that in parentheses, for instance, facilities, low factory level, low design center level, basically what their issue is with the facilities. Other staff, let's say that this was a big malice. Other staff does not believe, so-and-so is of a level for the team. Car performance, would like the car to at least be able to fight for points, that sort of thing. And I would also love it if we could get under under this screen or under somewhere else, basically just driver stats that kind of hints towards the mentality. I talked about this on stream earlier today, but basically I would love it if drivers would have traits that would give hints to what you can expect from them. Again, a professional driver, basically their malices or boosts towards the car, the staff, the facilities are either very minor debuff, or very minor on the positive side. You get the idea. They are professional. They'll do the best they can with what they're given. You can have extremely ambitious drivers who will not be happy unless everyone in the team is better than them. You can have, easygoing drivers who don't care either way. You can have, perfectionists who, will do whatever they can and expect the same from others. Basically, a system that can give you a little bit of a hint towards, if I pick up this driver, is he going to be a problem for the team on a mental level? Is this going to be a bad pickup? Because right now, you don't really have any indication of if a driver or staff member is going to be a terrible pickup until you've done so. So do keep that in mind. It could be a good idea to save before you pick someone up to just see if they will completely ruin your team. But generally, if you go up on the overall, you will be fine. And generally, as a rule of thumb, because of the amount of boosts that the drivers in particular get, you want to have your staff be higher rated than your drivers. Yeah, that's about it. Again, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy this. This was mainly just rambling, but honestly, there isn't too much you can do with mentality. I do have one more sneaking suspicion, and that is that the aggression level might have an effect on the drivers because, well, it could, but I kind of doubt it. It's just like one of those thoughts that are lingering in the back of the head. Like aggression might have somehow an effect on what they expect from you. But I haven't really seen any evidence for it, and it's more a hunch than anything else. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. This has basically, as I said, just been a rambling about the mentality system. But it has been the best way that I understand it. Hopefully it can help you a little bit. And if you have any other insight, I would be very, very happy if you shared it with the rest of the class. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.